After you have set up your document for your digital collage, you're going to want to begin to add the images together that you can edit and collage. To do that, you're going to go to File, and you're going to want to click on Open in Place. The reason why we want to use Open in Place is because it will allow us to place those images within our collage background. Clicking Open will just open a single file, and it'll create a solid image out of that, not one that you can layer the different images and edit. So please click Open in Place, as they'll work best for digital collage. Once I click Open in Place, a dialog box is going to pop up, and it's going to allow me to select one of my images. I have suggested using a folder to collect all these images together so they're all in one place. Once you find that location, select an image that you want to use. For this exercise, I'm going to use the image of the woman that I found on Flickr Commons. I'm going to select it and click Open to bring it into my document. Now when you want to go to edit your image, you want to make sure that it's a rasterized image, which is a way of saying that it is pixelated and able to use the tools with. To rasterize your image, you're going to want to make sure your image is selected, and you're going to go to Layer and Rasterize. That is going to convert that layer into pixels. Now that you have your image rasterized, you're going to be able to start using the tools on the toolbar. The first tool that I would like you to use is the Move tool, which can also be selected by clicking the V on your keyboard. Whenever you select the Move tool, you're going to be able to move your image around your background. And notice that parts of it will disappear as you go towards those edges. The Move tool also allows you to resize your image. Notice that the transform controls are selected. It is a white check mark on a blue box. Whenever we go to resize, I tend to go down to the diagonal corners, and this will allow me to move it. If I move too far to the left, it'll squash it or make it wide. And if I pull it together, it will distort it. To avoid these distortions, hold down your Shift key, and this will allow you to maintain your aspect ratio, or that height to width of the image. You can still move it around, and another great feature is that you can go up to the corners and you'll notice a curved arrow. This will allow you to rotate. Holding the Shift will allow those rotations to be on specific degrees and allow you to lock back in place with 90s, 45s, and 180 degrees. After you've practiced with the Move tool, we're going to want to experiment with the different selection tools, which will allow us to choose different parts of the image to cut, copy, paste, and make modifications to. The first one that you can use is the Rectangular Selection tool. The Rectangular Select tool will allow you to make selections of rectangles or squares. If you want to make a square, hold down the Shift key again to control that. You can also move that selection after you've made it. When you've made your selection, you have a few options of what you can do. You can go to the Edit menu and choose Cut, and that will remove that area from your photograph. Anything inside the selection area is what you're going to be altering. Command-Z will also allow you to undo anything. If you want to copy, you can also go to the Edit menu and select Copy, or Control-C. Command or Control-V will also allow you to paste, and notice that it will paste in a different layer. To move it around, select your Move tool or click V on your keyboard, and you can create multiple copies and multiple layers of that same image to create patterns or repetition. Again, to undo this, I will click Command-Z. You can also delete layers by dragging them to the trash can in the lower right, or you can click on the layer and click the trash can as well. Another selection option is using the Ellipse or Circle Select tool. This will allow you to create circles or ellipse. To create a circle, hold the Shift key. Again, you can Command X or Control X to cut it, Control Z or Command Z to undo, Command C to copy, Command V to paste. And you can create multiple versions of the same image. You can then rotate, resize, or move around if you want repetition. Another option for selection is the Lasso tool. The Lasso tool allows you to draw around your image. This will select everything inside the image. The Freeform Lasso tool allows you to draw with a stylus or your mouse to select what you want. and then again remove it, copy and paste it as you need. To deselect, you can click Command D or go up to the Select menu and click Deselect. The other lasso tool is the Polygon Lasso tool. This allows you to choose shapes by clicking different points along your image to create those shapes. Make sure you close it off. And this will allow you to move that around. Probably one of the most important lasso tools is the magnetic lasso tool, which allows you to go around and select edges by clicking different points. This is a great tool to use if you want to remove an image from a background quickly and easily. As I go around, I'm trying to go every little bit to make sure I'm including as much of the image as possible. The more time you take, the more refined your image will be. Notice as you go along, it will add in its own points if you do not put them. Now once I have this selected, anything that I do to the inside of it will change because the inside is selected. So if I went over and used the erase tool over here, it would only allow me to erase inside my image. If I wanted to change that to erase outside, I would need to go to the Select and Inverse option, which would allow me to erase now on the outside. And notice as I go beyond that, it will not erase on the inside. The Erase tool will be a great function tool to use. It has a few options. You can change the size by coming up here and dragging the slider bar to change the size of your eraser tool. Another way to change the size of the eraser tool is to use the brackets up near the Delete or Backspace key. The left bracket will decrease the size of the eraser tool. The right bracket will increase the size. And notice that I'll be able to erase anything outside that selection. The brush tool also has the ability to change the opacity or the flow. If you ever wanted to blend images into the background, using the opacity tool will allow you to feather that and take it down. And you can experiment with how intense that erasure is to keep some of your edges. 100% will completely erase the background. Now once you have done erasing the background, you may want to go in and touch up some of your edges. To do that, I'm going to Control or Command deselect with the D, and I want to zoom in. So you can also use the Zoom tool over here. The Zoom tool looks like a magnifying glass. To zoom in, you just click the tool and click near an area that you want to go in. This will allow me to see those edges. I can also move around my trackpad to navigate around. If I want to remove the edges, I can select the eraser tool again, or select the E on my keyboard to move the eraser tool. I'm going to adjust the size with my brackets, and I can come in and touch up my edges. This will allow you to get the smoothest transition possible between your images. If you want to zoom out, click back on the arrow. You can change to the negative side, and that'll allow you to zoom out. Now the other tool that you can use is the gradient tool, and you may want to do a gradient or some colors on your background. To do that, I'm going to select the background layer and I'm going to unlock it so that I can put my images there. Altering the background on this image will alter everything there, and it'll make it harder to layer in the future. To create a gradient, you're going to select your two colors here. You can do that by clicking on here, going through your color spectrum, choosing a specific color that you want to include, and you can go along and select different values. When your color is selected, you can click the OK, and it will include it. So I have a dark blue and a purple here. If I want to change the purple, I can come in and repeat the process and have my two colors. You can flip them by altering the arrow. For the gradient tool to work, you're going to make sure your background layer is selected, click on it, and you can draw which way you want the gradient to go. When you do that, that will allow the color to move. You can also use the paint bucket tool, which is also in the gradient, to select your color and make it a solid color. You can do this to the entire area by clicking on the areas of color. It will also work within your photo if you select that layer, and you can change all the colors on there. Another tool that you can use is the pen tool. To do that, I usually like to draw over my photographs by adding a new layer by coming down next to the trash can, selecting new layer, and then coming over and using my brush. You want to make sure that your colors are switched. If I draw purple on top of purple, it will not show up. You can then come in and create your own drawings. If you want to place this behind your photo from earlier, all you need to do is rearrange the layers, and that will allow you to move forward or backward. Everything that you add should have its own layer. So every time I go to add something, I make sure that I click the layer button to the left of the trash can. This will always add a new layer on top. To add in shapes, you can go down through the shape toolbar and select whether you want a rectangular shape, an ellipse, a line, a parametric shape, or a custom shape. I'm going to use a parametric shape. You can alter the fill by choosing from the selected swatches. You can alter the stroke or the outline color and how thick it is. You can also change the type of image that you are drawing and the length of each side. So these will give you options that will change based on each image that you select. Once you've drawn it, you can go back into the Move tool. You can resize it. You can distort it by changing some of its dimensions. And you can rotate it. If you want it to show up behind your image, all you have to do is relayer your images. Now remember, if you do not have an account and you exit out of this, you will lose all of your work. If you want to download the image, you will need to go to File, Export As, and JPEG. This will give you a few options about what your format is. I would select PNG or JPEG for this file. You can check the width. This is in pixels, but if we convert it back to inches, we'll see that it is our 5" by 5". And for quality, I usually go to the highest number possible. Once you're done, you can click Save, and this will export the image onto your computer. Once it is downloaded, you can find it, check out your work, and include it in your artwork summary sheet.